le Canada d'abord! Are there any patriots in the room who are ready to put Canada first? Wow, what an incredible crowd to have here. I heard that a snowstorm actually paralyzed Washington the other day, but here in Canada, our capital will never be prevented from celebrating its great national flag by a few snowflakes. I know there's a couple of questions that you have whenever Anna introduces me, so let's address them right out of the gate. First, what's she doing with that guy? I don't have an answer. Second, why would she leave a tropical country to trade the warm weather for a toque and earmuffs here in Canada? Well, that is the real question, and that is the subject that we're gathered here today to discuss. Because Anna and I understand that our stories would only be possible here in Canada. Only in this country could a refugee from Venezuela, who started in a basement Montreal apartment and the son of a teenage mother, raised by two school teachers, dream of standing on this stage leading Canada's national founding political party. See, that is the promise that this country makes to every Canadian, regardless of birthplace or background, that anyone from anywhere can achieve anything, that hard work gets you a great life with a beautiful house on a safe street, protected by brave soldiers under a proud flag. We're deeply grateful that this country made and kept us that promise. And it's actually why we've decided to get into this line of work and fight for it our entire lives, both of us very young when we did so. It's why that we've put our names on the line. We are in this fight today because we want to restore the promise the country kept for us and assure every single Canadian who works hard can experience the wonderful Canadian promise the country gave us. That promise did not happen by accident. It took courageous leadership for us to be here today. And we as Conservatives have a special duty to carry on that legacy. Conservatives, as the party of Confederation and John A. Macdonald, will restore the promise of Canada. Our founding leader united our country from the Atlantic to the Pacific and warded off American designs to dominate our continent. In the words of our great first Prime Minister, Conservatives will fight, and I quote, to give us a great, a united, a rich, an improving, a developing Canada, instead of making us a tributary to American laws, American railways, American bondage, and American tolls. Conservative legacy to Canada, deliberately resisting American annexation for hundreds of years. Now more than ever, we owe this country, we love this country, and we will fight every day and every way to pass down to our kids the blessings we inherited from those who came before us. Sometimes it does take a threat to remind us what we have, what we could lose, and what we could become. The unjustified threats of tariffs and 51st statehood of Donald Trump have united our people to defend the country we love. We must respond with strength. And strength means leverage. America has leverage, and we have leverage. I will use that leverage. Retaliation is only the beginning. Yes, we need to retaliate. If they put tariffs on our steel and aluminum, I will put tariffs on their steel and aluminum. If they hit us with generalized tariffs, we will respond dollar for dollar. Yes, we will carefully target American goods that we don't need, can produce ourselves, or we can get elsewhere to maximize the impact on Americans while minimizing the impact on ourselves. 100% of the proceeds of these counter tariffs will reimburse our businesses and workers that are directly impacted, and the rest will go to tax cuts to relieve Canadians. Not one penny will go to government spending. We cannot use this crisis as yet another liberal excuse to raise taxes or to do money printing, spending, which will only cause inflation. What we will do instead is use our leverage to fight back. We will make sure that Americans know that they will be paying the tariffs they impose on us. I will send the clear message so that everyone in key American states understands that they will pay the price for the decisions to punish our country. Refinery workers, home builders, automakers, and others will need to know that their jobs depend on the goods we sell them, and that tariffing those goods will lower their wages and threaten their jobs. And it doesn't stop there. America cannot power its energy-hungry future without buying surplus power that we make. You know, Google, Amazon, Microsoft, and Meta are all turning to nuclear power, in some cases buying or building their own nuclear plants to power AI data centers. In fact, these data centers, you know, when you do a chat GPT inquiry, it takes 10 times as much electricity as a Google search. Isn't that incredible? That's the power of this AI, artificial intelligence. You know we have artificial intelligence in the government, eh? The Americans will need nuclear, natural gas, hydro that can power those centers. And we have cold weather here that reduces the cost of cooling them. We can leverage that power while protecting our people. Americans need our radar, surveillance, ongoing cooperation to keep us both safe against intercontinental and supersonic missiles and other threats. They need our minerals, uranium, oil, and gas. Finally, we must remind our American friends that a trade war will simply reduce the funds both our countries have for our shared North American defense. It will make us less safe. As Winston Churchill said, though, you can always count on the Americans to do the right thing after exhausting all other possibilities. So let me spell out the possibilities for our American friends and speak directly to them. Option 1, you can carry out an unprovoked attack on our economy. Your consumers will pay more and your workers will make less. Gas prices will skyrocket. You will turn a loyal friend into a resentful neighbor, forced to match tariff with tariff and to seek friends everywhere else. Both our economies will weaken, leaving less money for defense and security, and our enemies will grow stronger. Option 2, we trade even more, and both our workers make more. Our consumers pay less. The resulting GDP boost allows Canada to further strengthen its border and up our military spending to 2% of GDP faster. Stop fentanyl, terrorists, supersonic missiles, and other threats. We team up against the unfair trading practices of other countries. Both countries, both America and Canada separately, will end up safer, stronger, and richer as a result. Oh, and there's something else. There's something else I'd like to say to our American friends. We've always loved you as our neighbors and friends. There is no country with whom we'd rather share a border. The longest undefended border in the world. We know America is the biggest economic and military superpower the world has ever known. And we've been a good neighbor. We fought on the same side of the same wars. We paid with Canadian lives and treasure to fight for America, avenging the 9/11 attacks. You have your grievance with us, we have ours with you. But I would ask you this question. Which other country would you rather have as your neighbor? And if Canada is not your friend, who is? See, the problem is at times we might be too polite, soft-spoken, and humble for our own good. We are slow to anger and quick to forgive, but never confuse our kindness with weakness. We love our country and our flag. We are a strong people with a proud history as a warrior nation whose soldiers have proven fierce enough to crush the fascists, the communists, and Al-Qaeda, yet humble enough to never once brag about their heroism. We are mild-mannered and made of steel. So let me be clear. We will never be the 51st state. Pay any price to protect the sovereignty and independence of our country. Which option the Americans will choose is up to them. But let's be honest, we have to be prepared for the worst. Simply put, we can no longer depend on the Americans alone for our trade. We can no longer think of them as our backup defense. These threats, my friends, are a wake-up call. We should be the wealthiest and most self-reliant economy in the world today. But instead, here we are. We have the fourth biggest supply of oil, yet we must import 179 million barrels of foreign oil every year because of the liberal No New Pipelines Act, which is still law today. We're the fifth biggest supplier of natural gas, but we can't export a single cubic foot of it overseas because we don't have a single liquefaction facility. The Liberals, according to Trudeau and Carney, they don't believe there is a business case for LNG plants. We have the fewest homes per person in the G7, even as we have 10 times as much land to build on as the second biggest country, because taxes and bureaucracy block home building, leaving our youth without houses. We sell twice as much to the Americans as we sell to Canadians in other provinces because trade barriers governments impose block us from selling and buying with each other. We have the third most farmland per capita in the world, yet food prices rose 37% faster in Canada over the last 5 years than they did in the US because the Carney-Trudeau carbon tax on farmers and truckers rose the price. Now, what have the Carney-Trudeau Liberals done about this? Well, they doubled the debt. They doubled housing costs. They doubled food bank lineups. They blocked Canadian energy in favor of dirty dictator oil. They raised taxes on work and investment and have driven an astonishing, eye-watering $500 billion to the United States in Canadian investment that now pays to create American jobs. All of this before a single tariff was applied. Now, Liberals would like to instrumentalize the tariff threat to distract from the record of the Carney-Trudeau Liberals over the last 9 years. They say that we should just forget about all the damage they've done to our country because of the tariffs that might be coming down the road. In fact, the opposite is true. Think of it, my friends. If Carney-Trudeau policies did this much economic harm before tariffs, imagine the devastation they would cause after tariffs. We need a Prime Minister who will put Canada first. We must, well, I need you too. Are you with me? said we must be able to stand on our own 2 feet, no longer helplessly dependent on the Americans. You know, the media is now saying that I should change my entire platform because of the tariff threat. In fact, the Trump tariff threats have proven conservatives right on everything. Everyone now admits, or they claim to admit, that conservatives were right on the liberal capital gains tax, that conservatives were right on the carbon tax, on pipelines, on LNG, on fentanyl, the borders, immigration, and the need to celebrate rather than cancel our proud history. It's funny, first the Liberals said, Poilievre has no policies. And then they said, okay, he does, but they're really scary. And now they say, they agree with all my policies. You know, imitation is the highest form of flattery, but you cannot believe them. My friends, it is not realistic that we would believe a party 60 days before election suddenly reversing itself on absolutely everything. If you want conservative policies, you will have to vote conservative. Take the carbon tax. And you know what to do with it. You know, before the tariff threats, we were talking about a carbon tax election. But now with these threats, I have to concede I've had to reflect on whether it is the top of mind issue. And after much reflection, I have concluded that the carbon tax will be an even bigger issue in the coming. Combining Trump's tariffs with Carney's carbon tax will decimate our industries and destroy the jobs of our workers. The worst liberal tax of all has been the carbon tax, championed by Trudeau and his economic advisor, Mark Carney, whose only complaint was that the tax was not high enough. Now he plans a pre-election trip. Next month, just days before he calls the election, Mr. Carney will pause the carbon tax, hide it out of sight so that you won't see it for the duration of the election period. And the media will tell you, forget all about it until the election is over, at which time, God forbid, if he were re-elected, he would bring in a much bigger tax that has no rebate whatsoever. He said just a few days ago that he doesn't want to, quote, axe the tax. He wants to change the tax. Right. He will take the change right out of your pocket. Mr. Carney's new and bigger carbon tax will help America take every industrial job from Canada. They will be popping the champagne at the Trump Tower when the Carney carbon tax comes in. Our industrial towns will become ghost towns if Carney gets his way. The coming election will decide whether Canadians want Mr. Carney's sneaky, job-killing, inflationary carbon tax, or whether they want to axe the tax for everyone, for real, forever, with the common sense I know Mr. Carney's going to try to plagiarize my policies right before the election, policies he has long opposed. But don't believe a word. In just a few months ago, did you hear about this? Mr. Carney moved his company headquarters to New York, Donald Trump's hometown, shifting jobs and investment into the U.S., just like Trump wanted. He opposed pipelines in Canada while his company bought them in the Middle East. He supported Trudeau's carbon tax in Canada while he profited off of investing in coal in the United States of America. He put his profit before our people. Carney cashed in, Canadians lost out. If he wins, Canada loses. But Canadians will win. We will do it with a new Bring It Home economic plan. We will bring home our jobs, investment, and companies, and break our dependence on the United States. We will unleash a fierce free enterprise economy to bring home control of our economic future from outside forces. We will stand on our own 2 feet, be masters of our own destiny, and be in charge of our own future. Tax is only the beginning. We will go ahead with the biggest and most patriotic tax cut in Canada's history. Bring it home. We will lower taxes on energy, work, home building, investment, and making stuff in Canada. We will axe the sales tax on new homes, saving you $50,000 and sparking 30,000 extra homes built every single year, which will mean more jobs for our carpenters, plumbers, electricians, and tradesworkers. We will cut bureaucracy, consultants, and corporate welfare. We will impose the law. The waste of our money will end when I'm Prime Minister, and we will impose the same law on government spending that you impose on your household spending. We will be required to find $1 of savings for every new dollar of spending. And we're going to bring home our jobs. We will repeal the liberal anti-resource laws. The idea is to once again produce our resources and upgrade and add value to them here in Canada. The Liberals drove $500 billion of investment to the United States, mostly by blocking our resource sector. They did this with the No New Pipelines Law, C-69, that has blocked the Energy East pipeline, blocked the Northern Gateway pipeline, and countless other projects. In fact, much worse than that, this is the situation we're in. I want you to paint this picture here. Not only can we not sell our oil to the world, we can't even sell it to ourselves. Do you know that the oil that Quebec imports from Alberta has to go through the United States of America? And if we ever got into a real trade dust-up with the Americans, they could even cut off the supply of our oil to ourselves. Now, why is that? Because they blocked the east-west pipeline that would have bound our country together and allowed us to sell Western oil to Eastern markets. Mr. Trudeau, with his economic advisor, Mr. Carney, said also that there is no business case to sell gas to countries like Germany, Japan, Greece, and others that we're begging for. Now, the Americans and Qataris are beating us to the punch. So we sell our natural gas internally for $4. While the world price, or the price in Europe, is $13. So let's give a little economic lesson to Mr. Carney and Mr. Trudeau. If you have something for $4 and you can sell it for $13, that's a profit. Now, if you can do that billions and billions of times, that's a business case. Right? I have a serious question for you. Think about this. Do you think that we could build the Canadian Pacific Railway today? No. Or would there be some squeaky, radical protester chaining himself to a tree like Minister Guilbeault? Again, the keep it in the ground crowd in the Liberal Party. We're doing these damaging policies. Imagine if they did this much damage before the tariffs, how dangerous they would be after tariffs. This tariff crisis has proven Conservatives were right also about natural resources. And that's why we need a plan to bring home production to this country. And that's what we will have. My common sense plan to unleash the production of our resources will allow us to be self-sufficient. We will incentivize Indigenous leaders to support these projects by letting companies pay a share of their federal corporate taxes to local First Nations. Second, I'm announcing, and by the way, that will allow First Nations to spend that on clean drinking water. I want the First Nations people of Canada to richest people in the world. I am announcing today that within 60 days of taking office, I will repeal the unconstitutional No New Pipelines law. Protects nature and gets projects approved within a year of an application. Third, I will rapidly approve LNG plants, pipelines, mines, and other key projects. Fourth, I will immediately green light federal permits for the Ring of Fire in Northern Ontario. My friends, we need to go from an exclusively north-south economy to an east-west economy. So let me say clearly and unapologetically in French and in English, I support a national west-to-east pipeline from the prairies to St. John, New Brunswick. Un pipeline national ouest-est des prairies jusqu'au Nouveau-Brunswick. We must have the courage and the backbone to stare down eco-fanatics who will stand in the way and favor foreign oil instead. I stand with the 74% of Quebecers who support building pipelines to transport oil and gas. Trade partners, and we sell 75% of our exports to the Americans. I've got a new export partner in mind, a new country we're going to use to become less dependent on the Americans alone. Great country, nice people, they speak French and English, cold climate. It's called Canada. Between our provinces that are almost as big as the one that President Trump is threatening. That's why we sell twice as much to the Americans as we do to ourselves. This is madness, my friends. Within 30 days of becoming Prime Minister, I will bring together the premiers with the aim to remove the hundreds of pages of carve-outs and exemptions in the Canada Free Trade Agreement that slow or stop goods from moving from province to province. We will set up a blue seal test and trade that provinces test and licensing process so that provinces can accept and allow doctors and nurses from all across the country. And furthermore, we need to allow the 20,000 immigrant doctors and 32,000 immigrant nurses to quickly take a test and get to work. This will boost our GDP. Billions of dollars of extra tax revenue will result not from higher rates, but from a bigger, freer economy. And I will use the extra federal revenue from free trade to pay a bonus to each province that voluntarily knocks down barriers and opens up its market to fellow Canadians. Well, people can't currently bring alcohol across Canada. They can easily traffic deadly doses of fentanyl, guns, and illegal migration into Canada. We must take back control of crime, drugs, and the border from the radical, borderless, woke ideology of the Carney Trudeau Liberals. They allow 99% of shipping containers to enter uninspected. The government's own report says there are as many as 500,000 people here illegally, but they admit they're not quite sure because they've lost count. Or perhaps they just can't count. My Canada First plan will deploy military helicopters and surveillance to the borders, add 2,000 new border agents, expand the power install new high-powered scanners, towers, and drone systems, and track departures so that we actually know if the people deported have left the country. Friends, even worse than the gun crime that our open borders policy has brought us is the fentanyl deaths. Mr. Carney recently said that fentanyl is not a crisis, just a challenge. You should tell that to the families of the 50,000 Canadians who have lost their lives to these horrible poisonous drugs in the last 9 years. Do you know we've lost more people to fentanyl overdoses in this decade than we lost fighting in the Second World War? The Liberal laws C5 and C75 allow drug kingpins out on easy bail and house arrest. They've legalized fentanyl possession and given out tax-funded opioids that ultimately get resold to children. They ban you from using a plastic straw, but allow you to use cocaine. So the next time you're snorting up, just make sure you use a paper straw to save the world. Liberal drug liberalization has killed 200% more people a year. Recently, a lab in BC was shut down with enough fentanyl and ingredients to kill 95 million people. Selling large amounts of fentanyl is like firing bullets into a crowded room. You might not know who you're killing, but it is certain that someone will die. So we must treat mass fentanyl traffickers for what they are. Mass murderers. My government will repeal Liberal laws C5 and C75 and bring in mandatory life sentences. Life sentences for trafficking and producing 40 milligrams is enough to kill 20 people. We will lock up and throw away the murderers who are killing our families. More important than what I will do is why I will do it. You know, it shouldn't have taken President Trump to get the Liberals to wake up that there's a fentanyl crisis in this country. I'm not doing this for him. I'm not doing this for him. I'm doing this so that there's not one more Canadian parent that has to collapse on the ground on learning that their child has died in a back alley somewhere. We must reinvest to bring our loved ones home drug-free. And so my message to those who are struggling with addiction is this: hang on, have hope, help is on the way. We will protect our people, our soils, our skies, and our seas. We will stand on guard for our people at home and around the world. Our military will protect our national interests by carrying our weight in North America to secure and leverage more trade with the U.S., all while becoming less reliant on them for our defense. After 9 years of Liberal incompetence and disdain, our military is weakened and our allies no longer respect us. Job one for a new Conservative government rebuilding our armed forces is to protect our true north. Hostile powers like China and Russia want our resources, our shipping routes, and to be within striking distance of our continent. We won't let them. Defend our seas, skies, and soil. We will always be the true north, strong and free. First plan for our north will add 2,000 more Canadian Rangers, our eyes and ears in the north. It will deliver 4 heavy icebreakers for the Coast Guard and the Navy, and we will establish Canada's first permanent Arctic base since the Cold War, CFB at Calgary. This base will host the new F-35s and Poseidons, the aircraft that will detect, deter, and if necessary, destroy threats in the north. The base will also help NORAD protect our continent. We will cut red tape and speed up delivery on already planned missiles, refueling aircraft, upgrades to the forward operating locations in Inuvik, Yellowknife, Goose Bay, early warning aircraft, new submarines, tactical helicopters, and new satellite ground stations will protect our Arctic and all Canadians. We will pay for it by cutting foreign aid to dictators, terrorists, its men and women in uniform. The patriotic men and women of these forces will have the tools they need to defend our country, and our military will be guided by a warrior culture, not a My friends, we are a strong nation. No outside force can stop us unless we let them. But just as terrible economic policies has threatened our economic independence, so too have the radical post-national ideologies that say that Canada has no core identity threatened our national sovereignty. As the great Nova Scotian Joseph Howe said, "A wise nation preserves its records, gathers up its monuments, decorates the tombs of its illustrious dead, repairs the great public structures, and fosters national pride and love of country by perpetual references to the sacrifices and glories of the past." End cancel culture and stop the war on our history. Our national museums will celebrate the great achievements of Canada, telling the unvarnished truth that on balance, this is the greatest country on earth precisely because of the goodness of those who came before and sacrificed so that we could have what we call Canada today. Rather than tearing down our heroes in history, we will defeat this insidious and divisive cancel culture that sought to destroy our national pride and monuments. They've even tried to destroy the great founder of this country, John A. Macdonald. Well, I've got a message for them. If there were no John A. Macdonald, there would be no Canada. Government, I promise you we will build new statues and name new public structures after the great founding Prime Minister. His name will go on public structures and other places of national importance. I will also defend and preserve our proud military traditions. Our military traditions, that means that I will reinstate the great Royal Navy marching anthem, Heart of Oak, so that generations of sailors can carry on. We will promptly complete a long overdue monument to the brave Canadians who fought and died for us in Afghanistan. Cold penalties for anyone caught tearing down or defacing our statues. And then there's our passport. We will restore Terry Fox. Terry Fox, Vimy Ridge, the Famous Five, the Blue Nose, the Fathers of Confederation, Indigenous people, and our military heroes to our passport. Our Heritage and Citizenship departments will be using a policy of promoting our common national identity. That will be embedded in our immigration policies, in our heritage policies, and in everything we do. The goal is not to erase differences, but to bridge them. We will strengthen the bonds of common country between Canadians of different background, race, birth, region. It starts with the institutions that bring us together. I will massively expand the Cadet Corps and the Junior Rangers to bring our youth. We will bring our youth together for mentorship under great members of the Canadian Armed Forces. There will be more exchanges. For example, can you imagine if we had an exchange where a kid from Mississauga could go up and embed with the Rangers in Inuvik, learning thousands of years of Inuit knowledge and history, all while surveilling our northern coastline against risks? Wouldn't that be a way to bring our different peoples together? I was a kid, I was 20 years old, and I went on this exchange to Chicoutimi in Quebec, and here I was, an Alberta kid who'd lost a lot of the French that my dad taught me. But as an Albertan in rural Quebec, I never felt more Canadian. Sitting around the table with the Dubé family and letting them tell me their stories and realizing how much we had in common. Learning in a classroom how to properly speak the language that I still haven't quite mastered. Et dans la nuit, dans les soirées, on est allé au pub pour célébrer avec les autres jeunes du Québec. Et je sais que les Québécois aiment dire « je me souviens », mais il y a certaines soirées que je me souviens pas. Donc, but let me say that I'm announcing today that we will double the number of placements for language immersion pour que les jeunes anglophones puissent apprendre la langue française. We're going to remove the two solitudes by bringing everyone in this country together. And there's no more important moment than when you become a citizen as an immigrant to this country. It's a precious inheritance. I've been to some of these beautiful citizenship ceremonies. They're very emotional. Most immigrants used to take the entire day off so they could celebrate and take pictures. Yet the Liberals, since COVID, have been phasing them out and instead replacing them with online ceremonies. They're even working on what they call click citizenship, where you become a citizen by clicking online. The citizenship oath is a special moment and should not be a simple administrative nuisance like renewing your driver's license. My government will restore in-person citizenship ceremonies. We will add the following words to the existing oath. I pledge gratitude to those who worked, sacrificed, and gave their lives to defend the freedom I now enjoy and to build the country I now call home. Like the people before me, I pledge to fulfill my duties as a Canadian citizen. Seen the government divide people by race, religion, gender, vaccine status, and more. No wonder hate crimes are up 251% in 9 years. Places of worship are firebombed and shot at. And for the first time, the world's problems are spilling onto our streets. That must end, and when I am Prime Minister, it will end. Laws will be enforced. People who engage in this activity will be locked up and they will pay a serious price. Those who are visiting the country on a visa and are not citizens or permanent residents that engage in hateful violence will be deported from the country. And we will treat all our people, regardless of their race, as Canadian and Canadian first with no hyphens. We will leave the world's problems at the door. On va laisser les problèmes du monde à la porte. Ours is a nationalism not based on bloodlines, birthplace, or background. Whether your name is Martin or Mohammed, Poilievre or Patel. Tremblay. Hi there, Mr. Patel. It's like Smith. Or like Tremblay. Tremblay, Tang, Singh, Smith, or Steinberg. Whether you're from Tuktoyaktuk or Trois-Rivières, Okanagan or Oromocto, Calgary or Cavendish, we are all Canadians and Canadians first. Rebuild our borders and military, honor our history, and raise our flag. What binds us together is the Canadian promise that anyone from anywhere can do anything, that hard work gets you a great life in a beautiful house on a safe street, wrapped in the protective arms of a solid border defended by brave soldiers under a proud flag. To preserve that flag and its promise, we must work together, fight together, and win together. That is what it means to put Canada first. Easy. We may have very hard days ahead. But I have a question. Do you think making Canada was easy?
No.
Do you think it was easy for the Inuit to sleep in homes of snow, hold dinner out of the icy waters, and survive thousands of winters in minus 45?
Pensez-vous que c'était facile pour les colons français de Tadoussac en l'an 1600? Après un hiver brutal, seulement 5 d'entre eux ont survécu. Pourtant, d'autres sont venus et ont établi une présence française qui prospère encore aujourd'hui au Québec.
Do you think it was easy to drive the spikes into the Canadian Pacific Railway, into the frozen ground, through the rock, muskeg, and mountains? Chinese laborers, under brutal conditions, forge a ribbon of steel that unites east to west. Do you think it was easy? For the Canadian teenagers living in frozen, rat-infested trenches only to run out towards flying metal to attack and beat the Germans in World War I as their sons and daughters would again do in World War II? Do you think it was easy for Terry Fox's cancer-ravaged body to run across our land, pounding his one and only leg again and again on lonely highways with chipped bones and blistered limbs to fight the disease that would later take his life? No, none of this was easy. Making Canada was hard. Those are the people who built and defended our country through sacrifice and struggle, but they did not go that far and travel that long so that we could take the easy way out and give up. Like them, we are part of something bigger than ourselves. We are in this together. We are at this place in this time because we have a job to do, to pass on intact what we inherited from those who came before us to those who come after us. Parce que le Canada vaut la peine qu'on se batte pour lui, pour notre peuple, pour notre terre, pour notre chez nous, pour le Canada, because our country is worth fighting for our people, for our land, for our home, for Canada first, always and forever. Let's bring it home.